We just got a brand new Quest 3 update that finally brings in some long-awaited features, as well as a big leak for the Quest 3S headset, and much more. So let's dive right into it. Now, the first thing that you will probably directly notice is the brand new app that is added to your library called Layout, because this is installed automatically once you receive this new software update. So if you don't see it yet, you might have to wait a little bit longer until it's rolled out worldwide. But with it, it can let you measure real-world objects or visualize the spaces that you will need for new ones. For example, you can visualize what a certain TV size would look like on your wall, or measure the dimensions of your own kitchen table. And it even includes a leveling tool so that you can figure out if your wall-mounted items are truly straight. But besides this new application, this update also comes with a bunch of new experimental options, with the first one being called the Content Adaptive Brightness Control, or for short, just CABC. And while the name might not sound interesting at first, it can actually change your VR experience completely, because according to Meta, this new setting will reduce the contrast in darker scenes while improving the display experience. And this is supposed to let the screen show you much more deeper blacks that are closer to an OLED panel than the actual LCD that is being used. But with the constant changing of brightness in a lot of VR games, it might be very difficult to implement this correctly. So for the time being, this is not a fully fledged feature just yet. But another long-awaited upgrade is the possibility for higher resolution screenshots. This will now let the user finally take some crisp images while playing your virtual reality games, because beforehand it had a resolution from one side of 1440 that now gets upgraded to a total of 2160 pixels, which is actually a quite big jump in clarity. And furthermore, you will now also be capable of downloading and updating your applications at the same time. And a much smaller yet still very useful feature is the low battery alert, where you will hear a new sound effect from your headset once you take it off with a low percentage battery left, making it a great reminder for you to put it on charge before you put it back on the next time you use it. And a similar quality of life improvement is that you can now pair your touch controllers from within your headset, where previously you would always have to use the Meta Quest mobile app if you got a replacement for a broken controller. So letting you connect them directly is basically just getting it up to the same standard that we already have with other gamepads. Now, while there were also some other minor changes, like improvements to the virtual keyboard and the reduction of latency in some applications, there is one big other feature that has finally been introduced and that will have a huge impact on the future of VR, and that is none other than the inclusion of the Meta AI. Just keep in mind that at the moment this is only available in the US and Canada, with the capabilities still being highly locked to only allow the headset to see the camera feed of the user. That means you can ask general questions about your surroundings or things in front of you, with the voice chat capabilities answering you on the spot. But like mentioned before, the cameras can only see what's in the real world, so they won't have any awareness of virtual content shown by the headset within it. Now, Meta did mention that these capabilities might become available in the future. They sadly also confirmed that it won't be coming for the Quest 2 or older devices, and likely the Quest Pro won't be getting it either. But overall, it still marks the first step of integrating artificial intelligence inside a VR headset. But of course, Meta didn't stop there, because they finally announced their big upcoming Meta avatars that will be getting a complete graphic overhaul. Now, for those who have been following the VR news for a while, Meta has already promised these big upgrades a couple of years ago. And although they finally did added legs to our Horizon Home avatars, it is still a far cry from what we were expecting during their massive presentation. So now it seems that these enhancements will finally see the light of day sooner or later, with the most likely release being during their next big Meta Connect event. But the biggest VR news we had, that will most likely also see its release at the same time, is the first image leak of the upcoming Quest 3S. Now, not a lot has actually been known or officially revealed about this upcoming headset, but speculation and leaks have been going around for months. So when we saw this tweet from the user known as VR Panda, it was almost impossible to deny the fact of the next VR headset from Meta. And like mentioned before, while nothing has been confirmed just yet, most sources suggest that the Quest 3S is a more affordable version of the original Quest 3 that still has the same Snapdragon XR2 chip, but uses the old lenses from the Quest 2, bringing the price down to a total of $300, which should in return push the VR headset sales as much as it did with the Quest 2. But of course, we'll have to wait and see. And before we get to the next big VR game news, let's have a quick word from the company that made this video possible. Because if you want to take your virtual reality experience to the next level, then you have to check out the insane VR treadmills from Cat VR. Now, while we usually face limitations due to the space and boundary system in our surroundings, Cat VR has been creating treadmills that let you run, crouch, and jump without any restrictions. And their latest version, the C2 Core, is compatible with nearly every headset out there, making this obviously a dream upgrade for any setup. And even for those hardcore enthusiasts, they offer high-end models with features like haptic feedback and a vehicle simulation, making the experience itself even more realistic. And to top it all off, you can use the code VRelity to get a $130 discount on your entire purchase. So for those who are interested, I'll leave a link in the description below. And with that said, let's get right back into it, which gets us to the VR game news. With the big release of the long-awaited VR game known as Attack on Titan Unbreakable. This title was in the making for many years and now got its first 2 chapters released in early access, letting users fly across the cities in their ODM gear while coming across some familiar faces like Armin and Levi. And while for a lot of users, the graphics were a far cry from what they were expecting, the gameplay itself is still highly addictive. Besides, with the release of their future co-op mode and other chapters, there are still some big changes that will be made in the future. I even made a more in-depth review that I will leave in the top right corner. But overall, while it might not be the visually best looking VR game, at the end of the day, Attack on Titan in VR is an absolute dream come true. But another VR game that visually does look absolutely insane is none other than Arcane Age. This anticipated sci-fi shooter has now finally announced that they finished their big beta test. And that means that their PlayStation VR 2 and PC VR release are right around the corner, letting you adventure while also giving you customizable melee and range weapons for physics-based combat sprinkled in with loads of boss fights and a big 15-hour campaign mode, making it one of the games that I've been dying to play ever since it was announced. But an even bigger title is Alien: The Rogue Incursion, of which we now finally got some first-hand gameplay. Now, like the title implies, this will be an action horror game which is set to include an all-new storyline full of heart-pounding action, exploration, and some terrifying monsters, where you will be tasked as an ex-colonial marine to go to the uncharted planet called Purdon, and you will try your best to survive during deadly attacks, as well as discover new horrors that could spell the end of humankind. Now, for the fans of the series, it will also include some iconic items from the pulse rifles to the full-on pump shotguns. But that's not all, because we also had some other big VR games for your Quest 3. So click on the video that you see on screen right now to make sure you don't miss out. And of course, stay awesome.